I think I've got possibly one of the longest titles as well, because I've got a little bit underneath as well. Just to gauge my audience, because it'd be good to know who I'm talking to. If you are working in like open access, scholarly communications, open research, can you raise your hands? Okay. If you're working in like front-facing, student customer servicey type stuff, raise your hands. Okay, and librarian, subject librarian, liaison. Okay, that's good. That's what I was kind of expecting. So there's a few things I'm going to talk about that I'm going to like explain for the benefit of people who don't work in open research. So if you do work in open research and scholarly comms, you can have a nap at that point, but just maybe get the person next to you to poke you when I've finished explaining and wake you back up. So as I was introduced, I am Cath Dishman, and part of my role is to run our open journals service. I'm going to talk more about that in a minute, but that's only part of my job. The other thing I manage is our institutional repository. An institutional repository is basically a digital archive of research. So research that our researchers at John Moores do, they can archive a version within our repository and make it publicly available. I'm not going to talk about the repository today, but I just thought for context, so because I will mention repositories in a little bit. So our open journals service is 10 years old. It started with 3 journals and it's now grown, and we have quite a lot of journals. We have a number of research journals. We've got student journals. We've also got a zine. That's pretty new and quite exciting. So that's a new development. And we also host things like conference abstracts as well. So what is a hosting service? So we provide a platform for our researchers and our students to basically publish their own journal. So we are the hosting service and we are the platform. So as part of that, we provide them with the software, and we help them with setting up their journal. We help them with deciding on things like what licenses to make their work available under, copyright decisions, things like customization. I can help with a little bit of that, not too technical. Hopefully some of them have their own. The ethnography is their team have done a really nice, they got a graphic designer in, so they've got a fantastic header on theirs, which I just could not do. But we can help with some of that. We can give them advice on things like applying for an ISSN for their journal. We do documentation and training for them, ongoing technical support, and we issue permanent identifiers as well. What we don't offer is editorial services. That's like finding reviewers, people doing typesetting, all that kind of stuff. That's the responsibility of the editor. I do help them get published, so get them through that first iteration of getting published through every stage of the process. Usually that they need more help the first time they publish, and then once they've published, they're a little bit more self-sufficient. But so as a provider of an open institutional publishing service, which is what we call ourselves, you can see why it's a subject that is close to my heart. So our open service is only one flavour of open institutional publishing. There are a number of other things that come under what we call open institutional. I'm going to say open institutional publishing quite a lot. Hopefully I can still get my teeth around it by the end of my talk. So there's different things. So there's people like me, library publisher. We have a hosting service. We publish journals and we're part of the library. The library pays the money for the hosting. You've got new university presses. They tend to be the smaller presses. So people like UCL, University of Warwick, they're based within a university. They are a separate entity and they're a business, and they are part of that ecosystem. And then you've got things like open journal services that are not sitting within the library. So there's one called the Open Library of the Humanities, which is sort of adjacent to an institution, but it's not actually within the library. So it's sitting within the institution. And the thing that sort of binds us all together is that we're not for profit, we're entirely open access and mission driven, and we're affiliated with an institution. So we come in all these different flavours, but we've got this kind of shared goal and shared mission. And OIPA, which is the Open Institutional Publishing Association, is a new association that's kind of gathered all these people together to kind of support each other. We're a member as an institutional publishing service, and we all have to meet, to be a member, you've got to meet those criteria that I've just mentioned, but it's a place for us to be together. We have that shared vision and we can support each other. And I'll talk a little bit more about the things that we do to support each other later on. Just checking the slides are actually downloading. So why is open institutional publishing important? Why is it, why should we care about open institutional publishing? Well, it can actually support university strategies. So open research is increasingly being embedded in university strategies, and open institutional publishing kind of supports this in a tangible way. It's not commercial. With a lot of traditional publishing, we produce the research, we publish it in journals, and then they rent it back to us. So effectively, we give them our research, we actually peer review the research as well, and then we buy it back off them. With open institutional publishing, you're not doing that because you're actually producing it yourself and you're making it open. There are open access publishing options, but that kind of leads into my next point around financial crisis. So big agreements cost money, big publishers cost money. So these publishers that come under this banner of open institutional publishing can offer a lower cost alternative to the big commercial publishers. The journals often operate under a diamond model, I'll come back to that in a minute, which means no cost to the author, no cost to the reader. They might charge book processing charges. So to make something open, you might have to pay a fee to make that open. So for a big commercial publisher, that can be quite a hefty sum of money. The open library presses, they tend to be at a lower cost, and they're basically covering the cost of making that work open because they're not making a profit, and any money goes back into the system. And it supports open infrastructure because it's providing that alternative model to the more traditional models. And we're actually contributing to basically making more work openly available. I felt like I'd completely missed a slide, but I've just realised I just didn't explain the different publishing models. So I will just mention that before I go on to this, just for the benefit of anybody who's not as used to talking about open publishing. So you've got gold open access, which is where you pay a charge, so that book publishing charge or a journal processing charge, article processing charge. So where you pay the publisher, they make it open. You've got green open access, which is where you make a version available in an institutional or a subject repository. And then diamond, which is what we are as our open journal service, is a diamond model, which is where it's funded in a different way. So basically our library pays the hosting fee, no charge to the author, no charge to the user. So apologies for missing that bit in my notes. Got carried away, you see. Good afternoon. Now I can't turn the page. So why is it important to me and why is it important to my institution? So open institutional publishing as kind of a thing, and OIPA in particular, is useful to me, important to me, because it gives me the opportunity to collaborate with other institutions. I'm actually on the committee for OIPA. I'm actually the skills lead on OIPA, so I can help, to produce things that people can use to help them support their services. And by doing that together, we actually can pull on everybody's experience and utilise that. We can learn from each other, we can benefit from other people's experience. And generally, we're not in competition with each other, so actually we can be more collaborative. In my role as an open access librarian or open research librarian, it's important to raise awareness of different options that are out there. So being involved in this means that I then know about different options, and I can promote and push these options within my institution, which are generally a lower cost alternative. There's also power in numbers. So we're working together, we've got more power to influence the wider sector, make our voice heard. We can link up with other people, and so I can publicise things more widely, because I might put something out and then, a number of my colleagues will then also promote it. So it's actually pushing so that, for example, our journal publishes a new issue, I put it on my LinkedIn, all my OIPA colleagues then go, oh, look, there's a new issue of this journal, which then makes that journal more visible, outside of just John Morse. And it also means that you've got other people advocating for you. So you've got this wider group of people. So when you're advocating for your service, you've got a bit more evidence behind you because you've got all these other people that are also doing something similar, and we can work together to come out with those key messages to advocate for the service. Now, in terms of the institution, we have to be involved in something called the Research Excellence Framework, or the REF. So for anyone who doesn't know what that is, it's basically an exercise that universities engage in around every 5 years, where they submit like a subsection of their research to basically get funding to do more research. So you submit all this work, it all gets assessed, and then you get funding back based on how great your research seems. When you say it like that, it sounds a bit weird, doesn't it? And there's 3 elements to this. So you've got the outputs element, which is like your books, your journals, your book chapters. You've got impact and engagement, which hopefully is self-explanatory. What's the impact of your research? Who have you engaged with in your research? And then there's a separate element called strategy, people and research environment, or SPRE, as we are now calling it, which is basically the environment in which the research is undertaken. And you submit to each of these areas and you basically get a score. You get an institutional score, but you also get a score based on unit, which is basically subject area. And then the next REF, they're saying that we have to make books and book chapters open access. So at the moment, we have to make our journal articles open access, and that's partly why we have an institutional repository. So if we can't pay to make it open, we can put a version in our repository, and that's a requirement of the REF. So in the next REF, they start to talk about us making books and book chapters open. As you can imagine, this is a massive shift because we've not had to do this before. And also, you know, potentially it's a massive cost to the institution, because actually making a book open access costs a lot more than making an article open access, or even just a chapter. And the green route, so the institutional repository route, is actually less well established for books, and is actually a little bit more complicated because they don't have that same sort of author accepted version in the same way as you do for articles. So that's something that we need to think about. And I think open institutional publishing has a part to play in that. So I'm better informed through OIPA to actually advise on different options and to look at what other people are doing. Some of my colleagues, some of them have processing charges, some of them don't. So it's just giving people other options rather than going with their favourite commercial publisher, where suddenly they might need to have to make it available openly, and there's a huge cost to that. And then the other side of it for the SPRE element is that we are engaged in open institutional publishing as an institution. We've got journals, we've got a survey, so we can actually use that in our institutional statement to go, look, we're contributing to the open infrastructure. And the areas where they've got journals can say, look, we've got journals, we're contributing to the open infrastructure. And the service that I've run has grown in the past 10 years, and the influence within the institution has grown. When I first started with the 3 journals, the current REF head at the time was the research head at the time didn't really think we needed an open journal service, but we just kind of kept going under the radar, and now it's massively grown, and the current head is actually putting it in the spring for the REF. So it's, you know, it's massively changed. And I've got other people in the institution also advocating for it. So one of my editors wanted to put in a research culture bid to get funding to actually help develop the service. And we didn't get the money for the culture bid, but he still is really keen to engage in actually improving the service for all the journals. So we had a meeting with him last week, and hopefully we're going to set up a journals board. So we'll have a board that will actually support us. So the scale has kind of expanded. So what support's available for these types of publishers? So I talked about, well, you can talk about it a lot. You'll notice it's on every single slide that I've put. But it's really important for us to work together as a group of people to share information, and to build up like best practice and develop open training for different aspects of publishing. It can support our authors as well as supporting us as publishers. And building partnerships with the wider open access and scholarly communications community. So there's a similar group in Ireland and a similar group in the Netherlands, and we're hoping to start doing some joint things with them to again support our authors, but also support our editors, copy editors, etc., etc. And we also work closely with other groups. Like there's a group called COPIM, and they're a group who are aiming to build a fairer, more open future for scholarly books. So we do quite a bit of work with them as well. So it's another way to make that open more fair. That's the word I was searching for. And then we also advocate for the expertise and the value of open institutional publishing. In terms of funding and financial support for open institutional publishing, there are some collective funding models out there, and some of the people within OIPA do benefit from that. This is where universities will pay a small fee, and then it will go to a range of publishers. So we've done that at our institution. So you can support them. So through Open Book Collective, which Caroline mentioned before, we've supported a number of different publishers, which actually just helps them to keep going and to be able to invest back into the service. It's not everybody can do that, but it's one way that they can get some actual support back. So why should you support it? Why should we be supporting open institutional publishing? Well, it strengthens libraries. We talked about financial crisis has come up quite a lot today, as you know, it's on everyone's mind, and budget cuts, but also that creates a bit of a need for new skills. And there's a strong growth in library-led publishing, which means that you can benefit from this. So it's like skills development, staff sharing resources, sharing services, transparency around publishing costs, which is actually really important. One thing that the open publishers do is they're very transparent about what they're spending their money on. You'll find commercial publishers are not very transparent about what they're spending or your money on, rather. I've lost where I'm at. So in terms of, for the researchers, they're facing a mix of challenges as well. So there's widespread job insecurity, they've got heavy workload, there's a shrinking sector, particularly in certain areas, certain disciplines, arts and humanities, and that's shaping the disciplines we publish in, but also shaping the access to the research when they need it. People are cancelling agreements, suddenly we don't have access to things we did have access to. Open publishing is therefore more important again. So they provide practical support and training, high levels of author care, and give them the space for that more collaborative and creative work, as well as giving that wider community access to wider research. So some of the library presses are a bit more experimental in their publishing, so they're doing different types of research. So Caroline was talking about, you know, not just being very text-based and very text-focused. Some of them are doing like books that are really interactive, and they use different platforms in order to be able to do that. So they can be a little bit more experimental. And it also supports that bibliodiversity, so publishing from a range of authors from different backgrounds, from different countries, different institutions, and also people with no institution. So they'll publish from people who don't have an institution. And we're all working in a landscape that's shaped by misinformation, the challenge from AI and political pressure. So open institutional publishing helps to protect scholarship from suppression or distortion. It's out there, it's visible, it's got that trust, it's got that university name on it, it's got that kind of value added to it, and that branding. And open institutional publishers work together, increase the creative capacity of universities, libraries, and presses. So what can you do to support open institutional publishing? Well, the first thing you can do is encourage your researchers to publish with these journals and these publishers. Use their content as well. So widen that content, widen what they're actually using. Don't see it as, oh, well, it's only published at John Moore's open journal service, so it's of a lesser quality. It's actually not, because it's the same people doing the peer reviewing, and we're doing the peer reviewing for the, you know, the journal that sits on Wiley's platform, for example. It's the same people, same researchers. So, like, you know, pushing their other options and pushing those things out there. And then if you can support the collective models, have a look at those collective models. Can you support them? Can you encourage your institution to look at them? Can you encourage your institution to support them, to think about supporting them? And why would they want to support them? Make your library management aware of them if they're not. If you are doing institutional publishing in any form, consider joining us in OIPA. I don't know if anybody is, who isn't already a member, but please do. But also have a look at our web pages, because we do offer quite a lot of training that's openly available. We've got sessions that we've run that are actually open to anybody. It doesn't have, you don't have to be a member to watch the training. So you can go and have a look and find out a bit more about different things. And also advocate for open access. So advocate for open institutional publishing as that alternative to spending masses of money with big commercial publishers. I think I've probably gone through that really quickly, but that's me.